My name is Kaylee, and today I'm going to be talking about how I conceptualized a graphic novel and brought it to fruition and everything in between. So if you're interested in making your own graphic novel, or if you have a project in mind that feels so big and it's going to take years and you don't know how to get started, or if it's worth it, or if you're just someone who likes a good story, this is for you. My hope is that this video can embolden you to go for it, to keep going, and also to prove that the process can be even more valuable than the goal you initially set out to achieve. So back in 2017, I was a portrait artist. I had never actually drawn myself. I had drawn 100 portraits of strangers. Some of them were my friends actually, and my future partner. But mostly they were strangers. This project is essentially what taught me how to draw, because each person's face was so different, and I felt very motivated to continue through with this project. Each time I would get to sit down with someone and talk to them and learn about what they valued in life, learn from their experiences, just learn from their perspective and their way of living. I was able to draw their portrait, transcribe this story, and have a little mini project done in 1 week. It probably took about 20 hours per person. So with that project, I actually started with a group of 10, and then it grew into 50, and then it grew into 100. I didn't have the chance to really overwhelm myself and feel discouraged, because each portrait I got to draw, I was really happy to do it. I was excited, and it kept me feeling the sense of fulfillment and community. It felt really good to be simultaneously developing my skills as a portrait artist and also be able to provide people that I drew with a portrait of themselves. That was from 2014 to 2017. Now in late 2017, I had a problem. I developed neuropathy. It's basically like pins and needles, but all the time. I had it in my hands and my wrists and my arms, and it made it really difficult to pick up a pencil. I didn't know where it was coming from. I went to a neurologist. I remember being in his office, and he asked me what I did for a living, and I said, well, I'm in the food industry, but I'm a portrait artist. I want to be an artist. That's my dream. He's like, can I see these portraits? And I showed him, and they're very detailed. He looked at it and he said, you're never gonna draw another portrait again. So yeah, that was definitely the lowest point of my life. So my situation was that I couldn't hold a pencil. I was like trembling, I was shaking, it hurt really bad, and I had no idea what I was gonna do. Me being a young woman at age 23, I was working in the food industry, which, if you are a woman working in the food industry, you know that people can be creepy. There was such a tension between who I felt I had to be in the world, bubbly and happy and just trying to put out positivity. I couldn't reconcile it with the part of me that, ever since I can remember, middle school and before then, even like at 3 years old, I remember veering towards a darker conception of life, not necessarily negative, but something that would not be seen as bubbly. And so I had a really difficult time reconciling the public identity that I held, the aspects of me that were celebrated and that people told me were good, with what I was feeling on the inside. I didn't want to label those darker emotions as negative, and I don't think that I did at the time. I just felt that they wouldn't be received, and so I had to experience them in private. That worked for a little while, but by the time I was 23, what I was experiencing was this inner turmoil and upheaval, and I couldn't go on living like this. What I knew I had to do was use the depiction of my physical form to express the feelings that I was feeling on the inside, and that way I could marry the two and make it make sense in my own mind. I was in so much pain drawing this that I remember at some points I had to tape pages to the wall and use my other hand to like keep my hand still and just make little marks. And it was collaged. I used ink, which I had never used really before. I was always a pencil girl. It was a different style than my very delicate pencil drawings, because I was in so much pain I couldn't do that delicate work. And so a new style sort of came out of that pain. And at first I was really frustrated that I couldn't do the detail work that I love to do, but I was also ready to just do whatever it took to make this thing. It felt like a matter of life or death. That sounds dramatic, but it really did. It felt like if I don't make this, I'm gonna die. Or like a part of me is gonna die, or the pain is gonna get worse and spread to my whole body. Like, I really believed that. Late 2017 to early 2018, I was making this mini graphic novel. I think it was only about 10 pages. It had text to accompany the images, and it was completely removed from the style I had been using for years. But coincidentally, it was very in line with what I had done in high school. I remember even like banging my hands against the wall in frustration because I just couldn't feel anything. I don't recommend that. The pencil was dropping, the pen kept falling out of my hands. It was it was really tough, but I just knew that I had to make it. Like, I knew there was no other option. For some reason, I just felt so compelled to make it. So do what you're compelled to do and don't give up, but do it in a way that is somewhat bite-sized, somewhat manageable, something that you can do in a matter of weeks or a month even, so that you don't get discouraged or start second-guessing yourself. Nothing felt better than holding this book in my hands that I didn't even think I could draw. Big thank you to Jacques for helping me bring that to fruition. Having like this print copy just felt like proof that I could get through anything. It was something so simple, and it did not showcase my artistic abilities, but what it did showcase was how I would fight tooth and nail for the person that I was and to bring her out of me. I had to take responsibility for seeing myself the way that I felt on the inside. And to do that, I literally drew myself into existence. The last thing I did before I felt ready to do my own full-length graphic novel was to develop a project that would take my love of portraiture and use this new tool that I had forged of personifying emotional states through one's face and body. I created this project, Consumption, and it was 18 women and non-binary femmes that I worked with to create a portrait of them using colors, symbols, anything that they could think of, to express through their faces an emotional state that they felt was extremely powerful within them, but was not welcomed in society for whatever reason. I would love to make a whole video on what that project was like, because it was an absolutely incredible, rewarding, deeply healing process for me. Each individual actually contributed their own written segment alongside the portrait that we conceived of together to give more information on the emotional state that they wanted to portray themselves experiencing. So that was an incredibly beautiful project. My personality is I learn through people, and I am motivated through people. And so being able to really listen to and learn from these individuals about the emotional states that they wanted to represent, which were different from mine. That helps me practice my artistic ability and just my fluency in terms of bringing feeling states and emotions into fruition in a visual way. So I finished that project in 2018, went back to Jacques, and he printed these books. It was so fun to give them out to all the individuals that have participated in that project. We actually had a show as well, a gallery show, a trade pop-up in Providence, and it was so heartwarming, and I cried so much that summer. I was working in a fancy restaurant, and I would just wake up so early and draw these people and cry because it felt so good, and I was just so happy. And through this process, as I was healing emotionally, speaking to these other people, a lot of whom had similar experiences to mine, it was extremely therapeutic. And what I found was slowly my hands were starting to heal. The neurologist and a few other doctors that I had been to said that I would need surgery, and I'm so glad that I didn't go through with that, because I ended up just healing as I was healing myself through this art. The doctor told me that in 2017, and now it's 2024, and I am an artist, and I am what I wanted to be. So by the time that I had finished that project, I felt ready to start a much larger venture that at the time I thought would only take a year. Little did I know it was 5 years, but it was completely worth it. I had all of these ideas that I had put down on napkins, in my notes app, on little slips of paper, in different journals, and I needed to compile them all together. All of these notes for things that I wanted to draw that I didn't even know how I would fit them into the novel. I didn't know when they would come in. I didn't know how, but I just knew that I wanted to draw them in someday. And some of these notes that I compiled, I didn't even draw them into my graphic novel until I was 4 years into the graphic novel. But see, they mattered. Like, I knew that they would matter. I knew that one day I would be able to adequately express them in the way that I saw in my head. I just knew I wasn't there yet, and that was completely fine. I also compiled a list of all of the references that really spoke to me, all of the music that resonated with me on this topic, all of the movies that I'd seen that I really loved, that I wanted to emulate. What do you want to invest your time into remembering and proving through your art? Okay, this might sound a little morbid. What I wanted to remember was that I would inevitably die, and it was up to me to get my insides out and embody myself in the world before that happened. I wasn't even sure what it was at the time that I wanted to say, but I knew that I wanted to say something, and I knew that I could be so much more fully embodied in the world. When I started this project, the goal that I had written down was that by the end, I would recognize myself. At this point, I had only ever drawn portraits. I had no idea how I would learn how to draw all these things. What I did know from the very beginning was that I wanted to create a story that would depict the unknown and disturbing elements of life, of the human experience, in a way that was still somehow deeply loving and undeniably beautiful. I wanted that to be the thing that I was proving. I'd seen a lot of media that I felt exploitatively glamorized the darker elements of the human experience, and I really didn't want to do that. I wanted to be very careful and intentional with the way that I was depicting those more darker elements. I wanted to create a story that would make you see them differently and maybe not fear them as much as we're told to. I would just sort of receive ideas, write them all down. I didn't know how it would all fit together, but I loved being in that world and conceiving those ideas and writing them down, so I just kind of kept going and going, and I tried to organize them all into one place so that I could go through them and sort of like work with them, edit them, put them into order, developing the plot slowly but surely. And that was actually something that I would continue to edit and still do continue to edit as I go along. But it was really good to start with some sort of framework and some sort of structure. At the time that I conceived this project, I had very limited artistic abilities in terms of what I felt comfortable with drawing. A piece of advice that I received that really helped me was to play to your strengths. The more I practiced the things that I felt more comfortable drawing, the more confident I became in my skills, and the more I could work on my skills in a way that wasn't so discouraging. In high school, every worksheet that I had was covered with drawings of eyes, and I would get in trouble for it all the time. But I just couldn't stop drawing them. I love drawing eyes, and if you look at my graphic novel, there's a whole lot of eyes in there. If you think about what you find yourself doodling, start there. Start with what you gravitate towards naturally and build on those. It took years to develop my style, and it also took years to just figure out how to make the narrative and the images flow in a way that made sense to a reader who wasn't already in my mind. In the 5 years that I've been working on this, there has been a lot of frustration, and there has been a lot of ripping up of pages, but I would not take any of those years back. And something that we're going to get into in part 2 is how you can basically fuse your project with your self-development in a way that makes you feel like every time you're working on this project, you are contributing to yourself regardless of the outcome physically. This brings me to my last topic for this part of the video, which is the inevitable tearing up of pages and feelings of rage. I am an expert on this, and I actually just tore up a page last week. So I understand the extreme frustration of having an idea that you are so excited about and it's just not coming out. Like, it's not coming out on paper the right way, or if you're working in a different medium, it's just not coming out. If your current skill level or ability does not match the way that you would like to perform, or like what you see in your head that you would like to articulate, that does not mean that you are bad. That actually means that you are seeing your future if you put the time and the work into it. If you don't like anything you've drawn lately, or you're just like, I am not where I want to be skill-wise or any of that, I am going to put some pictures on the screen of what I started at and what I ended up doing. I was not born knowing how to draw things. My story is just one of someone who really, really wanted to articulate something and would not stop. These images that you're seeing are what I started out with, and I didn't like them. I was pretty bummed. I was like, this is not what I had in my head. There is a concept and a message that feels so sacred to me, and what I was putting out didn't feel like it was adequately communicating this idea I had. And I understand how frustrating that is because I've experienced it firsthand. And I'm really glad that that happened, because I have tangible evidence now to show you that you can absolutely reach a skill level that you can only dream of right now. If you showed me what I was drawing now 5 years ago, I would be like, there's no way. How'd you do that, girl? And it just comes from practice. I didn't go to art school, like I didn't take lessons. I found a way to integrate my life into the process of making this. And it's not like I didn't take breaks from doing it either, but I found a way to make a project that felt so good in the process of doing it that I didn't even mind how long it took. I am currently working on the second volume of my graphic novel series, and if you would like to watch that process in real time, that's what my Patreon is for. I'm going to have 1 to 2 videos a month just showing the process of that. I'll probably be ripping up pages on there, expressing what I'm learning, documenting the process, showing my techniques. If you are interested in watching that, the link is going to be down below. And that's also where you can find part 2 of this video. If you're just sticking around for part 1, I hope that I have offered you some helpful tips or some inspiration, and I hope that I've proven to you that it is completely worth it to keep going on something that does not provide you with instant gratification. The process of doing this project has completely changed my life, and when I told you that I'd set out to bring myself into the world through this project, what I didn't know was that working on this project, I would naturally become the person that I wanted to be. The person that I thought that I could only depict first on the page is the person that I am now living and breathing as today. And I think that repeatedly giving attention and intention to something that you hold dear in your heart, to something that you're passionate about, it changes your entire life. Every opportunity that you take to work on a project that you care about, you are showing yourself that you will show up for what you value and what you love. And the more you do that, the more you just become and embody what it is that you love and what you're passionate about. And you attract to you opportunities and people who see you for that, and who just want to build on that, and who want to expand that, and who want to fulfill your dreams. There were a lot of late nights, there were a lot of tears, there were a lot of moments of doubt that I had, and I can't promise that you won't have those, but what I can promise is that it will absolutely be worth it if you are genuinely pursuing something that matters to you. I'm so grateful to everyone who supported me through it, and everyone who I ever got to draw and who trusted me with representing them, representing their physical form. If you have any questions, feel free to ask them in the comments. If you want some more daily inspiration while you're working on your own stuff, I also post a lot of process videos on my story on Instagram, which will also be linked down below. Thank you so much for your time, and I will see you in part 2. Bye.